Oh, here's a really excellent point from Owen Hurley. Can we put to bed? Put to bed all the talk of Cork being soft? A depleted team took every tip could throw at them, including plenty of cheap shots, and kept coming back at them. Now,
I wouldn't mind knowing what the cheap shots were.
yeah, I feel like there's part of that is directed squarely at you for calling Cork soft so often, and part of that's at me just looking to wind up Tipperary.
We probably go and talk fairly forensically about the game, but I look at it and kind of think from a Cork point of view, in a way, how did they get a result in this game? Like after the first 10 or 15 minutes, they were beating all ends up and they still kept plugging away. And we'll probably get into it a bit more, but Declan Dalton's physical transformation and the transformation in the way he plays the game, like he was still going at 75 minutes, like mad keen to take over and take a line ball and get in
Nobody
play
would
and
have
get in
seen him
tackles.
as a half forward in modern intercounty hurling. They would have said edge of the square, brilliant wristy hurler. But yeah, what you're saying, like his transformation is incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and like he's some slap of a ball as well. But a lot of people would have looked at it as if, oh, maybe he's a dead ball taker. He's a great ball player, but he's not going to be able to go up and down the pitch. He's not going to be this modern day kind of forward that we need. That's going to get a certain amount of tackles in or whatever. He was still putting in tackles to the very end, and absolutely mad for Road. He was one of the best players Cork had the other night, and he kept taking it to Tipperary. And he obviously then we saw the other side of him with that brilliant goal. Like, and there was no issue with steps on his part at all. Definitely not. He just came through and batted it lovely to the net. But and the thing I throw to you about the game, Shane, is how did Tipperary not win this game? Really? Because realistically, having taken that big blow early on and potentially they could have conceded another couple of goals, like Tip dominated proceedings, like really, really dominated proceedings. And, you would wonder how they didn't walk away with the 2 points.
Yeah, but like, I think at the same time, it's much to Tip's credit at the same time that they did get, like, because again, like there was the victory a couple of weeks ago against Clare, but at the time I was saying I'm not getting carried away with this because Tipperary are a little bit ropey at the back here. They're offering up a lot of scoring opportunities and Clare aren't particularly taking them. And this was a trend we saw throughout this game. Like, look at it, 12 goal chances and good goal chances conceded across 2 games. 7 of them have been scored. But you have to be realistic too and say there's a lot of players in new positions here. Like number one, Alan Tynan was absolutely outstanding, and we're going to come back to him in a little bit of time. But if you look across the board, the team here, the Tipperary are playing. Michael Breen is not used to playing fullback. Obviously, I was trumping him to play fullback for years, but he's not used to it. Johnny Ryan is a new player in there. Alan Tynan is also a new player. Gerard O'Connor, Sean Ryan was a new player. Even the lads coming in off the bench.
Brian O'Mara is a totally new player as well, yeah.
So how can you expect Tipperary to be a completely well-drilled machine at the back when you have so many new players in there, and when you were also coming off the back of let's call a spade, 3 pretty awful seasons for Tipperary in a row. You're trying to change the team around in terms of rejigging it, plus bringing new players through. It's no surprise, but by the same token, like Pat Ryan, what he's gotten out of his team so far this year, 1 defeat only in competitive action. Did they also win the Munster Hurling League? I feel like they did.
I think they beat Tipperary in it. Yeah.
So he's doing it. Like the only defeat was to Kilkenny in the league semi-final, and that was a pretty shockingly bad defeat in terms of the performance. It was just poor. But what he's doing here, like, look at some of the players and the performances that they're producing. Like Kieran Joyce again, like he took another step on. I felt like they're without Sean O'Donoghue, Mark Coleman. There's someone else. Alan Connolly. And like Brian Hayes didn't happen Brian Roach didn't happen for him. Maybe Owen Downey didn't happen for him. But these lads will probably only get better for it. They looked combative the other day against Tipperary. My read on it as well is, while the game was mayhem, it suited Cork, and maybe that just allowed the players to all be pulled apart across the pitch, and their speed really and their willingness to go for goal really came to the fore. But once the game settled down, Tipperary were able to start picking Cork off. And the way they kind of took that extra hand pass or two before delivering pretty good ball inside.
The ball going in at times, Shane, was lovely, wasn't it? Like, you're just looking at, and you know what they're going to do. It's going to, like, hurling's not that difficult. Like, it's not that difficult of a game at times. Just you give lovely diagonal ball into your forwards wherever you can. Not ball to the feet. You try and take the defence out of their comfort zone. Some of the ball going inside to the Tipperary forward line was majestic. And on Tipperary as well, they were saying how they didn't win the game. Like, they lost their Jason Ford is their marquee man now, realistically, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he was the one that was taking it to Cork when probably a lot of lads were maybe not even treading water at the start, you'd probably say. And I think he scored the first 4 points and then went off. To lose him, to have the likes of Mark Keogh come in, who was brilliant at times off the bench, absolutely brilliant at times off the bench. Like they had to go fairly deep into their squad the other night. Would Shamie Callan have come on in an ideal world? He probably, in a way, like I'd say Liam Cattell was thinking, probably name him, but he mightn't be ready. But that was the nature of it, and they were losing forwards, and there was lads dropping, and kind of poor old Conor Bowe got on and had a couple of chances, didn't take them. It's amazing. It's like, they often say in snooker that the balls don't forgive you. He had a couple of chances, he didn't take them, and the ball didn't really get near him then for 10 or 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden he was taken back off, unfortunately, which is not a nice position for him, but it's happened before to him, and he's bounced back, and I'm sure he will again. Camden comes in, Patrick Collins does this amazing Nicky Quaid-esque flick on him, but in fairness, shows the experience, gets it back over the bar. But Tip had to go deep the other night as well. But what you're saying there is that it is a work in progress. It is a work in progress, and it was always going to be a work in progress. And conceding 4 goals is far from ideal, and obviously conceding 3 against Clare is not really ideal as well. And there's a bit of there can be a bit of a hole down the middle of the defence at times. But I think that will come because it will get an awful lot tighter, it will get more congested, there'll be less space. But they're doing a hell of a lot right as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty happy from that point of view overall. Would you be happy if you were a Cork supporter right now? I'd say you would. Like, look at the bench that they were able to bring in the other day. That scored 1-5. So you had Shane Kingston, who, like, this kind of puzzling how he just can't really seem to nail down a starting spot, despite us all knowing that he's one of the most talented players in there. And, on his day, arguably one of the top forwards in the entire country, but for whatever reason. And,
just on him for a minute, it is really puzzling, because how many times has he come into a game and made a massive impact? Like, I remember he scored, did he score, am I right in saying he scored 4-9 off the bench for Cork when they got to the All-Ireland in 2021?
Including 7 against Kilkenny.
Yeah, he's an outstanding player coming off. Is there an element of, when he comes in, sometimes that, defences are a little bit more tired, that he's struggling to make the impact at the start? I don't know, but that's something for his own career, and for Cork, they're going to need him to make that impact from the start. But go on, fly through some of the other subs who had a massive impact.
Yeah, I mean, like, I thought that Shane Kingston, obviously, he made an impact. Conor Lehane made a bit of an impact. Tim O'Mahony, Luke Meade, Conor Cahalan, and Brian Hayes obviously scored that goal at the end. But, like, have we named one even average player there? Yeah, they're all very talented players. Like, say what you like about Tim O'Mahony, he's unbelievably talented. Brian Hayes is an exciting enough one, and he's a big physical player. I was surprised that Conor Cahalan doesn't get more starts, and I couldn't believe it last year when Luke Meade wasn't. But, like, I think Pat Ryan is playing this very well so far. Like, I do. He's one that they wanted as Cork manager for quite a while, and he seems to be getting the job done pretty well here. It's not that every decision has worked out for him. Like I mentioned, a couple of the young lads wasn't their best game. Dara Fitzgibbon, was he 100% right, mate? It's hard to know. Like, he obviously got his goal late on, but he certainly didn't have a huge bearing on the game, did he? He got 1-1.
Yeah. The goal. Oh my God, he's a lucky boy with that goal. He is a lucky boy with that goal, because he was nearly standing in the square just before the ball was played across. That ball was going in anyway. Like, he's a lucky boy that wasn't blown for a square ball. It was Lehane that played the ball across. It was definitely going in without a touch, and he kind of touched it in. But that could have easily potentially been ruled out for a square ball, and they would have been absolutely sick.
Yeah, and wasn't it brilliant the way Shane Kingston did the stick pass across for Brian Hayes' goal? Now, you would say that Tipperary, like, a combination of a little bit slow to react and a little bit naive. Like, I wasn't down at the game, but the brother was telling me that it was a very slow reaction. So Barry Hogan's puck out was cut out, and then as soon as Declan Dalton turned and went for Tipperary's throats, there was a little bit of slowness in terms of, like, reacting to him. Obviously, the defense spreads out to create options for the puck out, but they just didn't get back quick enough. And maybe there was a lack of cynicism from some of the Tipperary defenders for these goals. I mean, there was no way Tip were going to lose the game if they scored the same amount of goals as Cork. Just based on, like, 419 to 225, obviously 23 scores to 27. Like, Tipperary, there's no getting away from it. Tipperary really should have won this game, and they're sort of the authors of their own downfall, but that's not to do down Cork and the fact that they've got so much talent across the field and what Pat Ryan is doing in such a short space of time. But like, are either of these teams All-Ireland contenders? Only if Limerick get caught.
If Limerick, but if Limerick continue to play a level or two below what we're used to, they probably are in what could yet be an open. Like, can you really confidently call who's going to come out with Munster? I'd still be happy enough with the three I called. I call Limerick, Tip, and Clare. Cork have to go on the road twice, whereas Tipperary have 2 home games. Waterford amazingly are back in this now. If Waterford win their last 2 games, so if they beat Tipperary and Cork, they're in with a decent shout on 4 points, particularly if it went back to head to head. On a Cork thing as well, from Pat Ryan's point of view, like it's a point earned realistically from a Cork point of view, based on how to get, not a point lost. Whereas I think from Tip's point of view, it probably is a point lost. But then you say if you concede 4 goals, you're probably never going to win, a big Munster Championship game, or you're less likely to. But just from a Cork point of view, and I've questioned, the soft centre potentially, and whether they're really willing to fight when push comes to shove. There was a fair bit of fight there the other night, and even Shamie Harnedy, who we probably won't talk about too much because the subs maybe stole some of his thunder, but when they were struggling in the game, particularly in the early stages of the second half, he was absolutely key. You talked about Darragh Fitzgibbon there. From what I could see anyway, Seamus Kennedy seemed to be picking him up. He picked him up from the throw-in anyway. Whether he picked him up the whole way throughout the game, I don't think anybody picks up anybody the whole way throughout the game now anymore. But he was outstanding. Outstanding. And like the fact that Cork left him free for stages at the start of the first half or second half. Like, Noel McGrath was literally getting the ball, and he was like, "Is Seamus Kennedy free?" Yes, he is. Like, he was free some amount. They were able to just spray a ball across. And like, you can talk about legs and pace in the modern game as well, but like Noel McGrath was just dictating things for such large parts of the game. His his deliveries inside are so good, so sympathetic to the forward. I thought he was outstanding the other night. And Pat Ryan actually said after that they really struggled to get to grips with him, that they couldn't really get near him. He just said after on Noel McGrath and the problems that he caused them. He just said it was hard to get our hands on him. He's a top class player, and it's not his first time causing a team problems. But he pointed out he pointed out his side, could have scored a hat trick of early goals. He just said this on Pat Ryan. We got a great start. We could have had another 2 or 3 goals. If Cork had scored 2 or 3 goals, maybe they would have been out of sight at the start. But they probably left the door open a small bit for Tip. And as you say, when it was chaos, Cork kind of thrived. When it was controlled and a bit more organised, Tip were the ones that were really driving things forward.
Yeah, let's look at the table here. At GA League Tables had this up online. So yeah, Cork top with 3 points along with Tipperary. Then Clare next on 2, the same as Limerick. And Waterford, as you said, they're back in the mix as well. The dream, says Detox 101, is Clare Waterford draw with loads of drama. Limerick to beat Tip. And last week, Cork to draw with Clare, and Tip needing to beat Waterford to qualify. Will Waterford rise to beat Cahill? Okay. Calling it now, lads. Fixtures will develop in a way that Clare can ship a loss to Cork to put Limerick out. Watch them play their minors in that fixture. I see the discussion about a lack of goals in the game has disappeared. And I really hope that people don't start talking about this whole, let's have 4 points for a goal or whatever, because the unintended consequence will be teams sit back more because they're like, well, we definitely can't concede goals now. And we'll talk about Antrim, Kilkenny a little bit later, but like Antrim would definitely be looking to play 12 lads in their own half throughout if the case was 4 points per.
Can I just say something to you on that as well? So you were in Croke Park on Saturday evening. It was real kind of cagey, kind of defensive enough affair. Whereas, and there was sweepers in play nearly at all stages of the game. Whereas you look at the game on Saturday night, and yet that's not to say there wasn't like lads sitting in space at different stages, but they were poles apart in terms of a spectacle and what you want to see in a hurling game. That's not to say like teams do what they have to do on a given day to try and get a result, and that was a big win for Dublin, and we'll talk about it in a while. But like in terms of expansive hurling, with, you know, loads of goal chances, loads of chaos, loads of opportunities. People like probably spent most of the game off their seats. Such was the energy and enthusiasm going around the place. It was poles apart between the Gaelic grounds and Croke Park, and that's a lot to do with maybe how different, say, the two teams set up in Leinster compared to how the two teams set up in Munster.
What did you make of the late freeze? So John McGrath had one from midfield, and you know, it's the sort of one that, like, he regularly takes free. He takes the freeze for Lockmore ahead of his brother Noel. But last year for the county team, Noel at one stage was actually taking the freeze.
That's right.
And like, John McGrath had been on long enough to kind of think that, you know, he should be, like, he came on the 53rd minute, so he was on the field 20 minutes at this stage. So it wouldn't be a case of he wasn't up to the speed of the game. Not that you necessarily need it for freeze, but anyway, it's not like he came in cold at it. You know, not like Nicholas Anelka brought on for the Champions League final penalty shootout, and his first thing was to take a penalty in 08. But like, I did think that the way he was going, I was thinking it'd be more likely Noel McGrath to take it. But look, it went wide, so obviously that's misfortunate. And then I don't think you can blame Declan Dalton for not scoring one from his own 40, give or take. So, yeah, like, do you see many changes in either of these teams? Obviously, Sean O'Donoghue will come back into the team, assuming he's right for the next day out, and the talk is that he might be okay there. But do you see any other changes in this Cork team and the Tipperary team? I mean, I keep saying that I think Mark Keogh should be starting for Tipperary, and I think, you know, this performance, what did he score, 1-4 or something like that, despite not playing the first 16 minutes? I'd be looking.
Can I just ask you, right? So you said that Keogh and Bow should probably start. Okay, who did it start instead of?
Well, I would have said that probably Sean Ryan. No, I do think he's a good player, but it's probably a lot to just throw him in there. You know, first season, obviously came on against Clare, it went well. Maybe it'd be a masterstroke if he had to go well again the other day. After that,
and there were glimpses that it could. He just it was caught a couple of times in possession, even.
Yeah. Otherwise, there's probably a bit of rejigging to happen. But like, even Bow coming in earlier, I suppose. Look, he came in early in this game. It didn't happen for him, but I'd still kind of think he's an excellent player and deserves every opportunity. Last year, Tipperary weren't great. He only played one half against Waterford before breaking his finger or thumb, whatever it was, and I thought he was really good. But anyway, part of the reason is he can obviously hurl, but he's very fast and he's athletic and he can keep into players. So a couple of more comments coming in. Ford stays on and Tip win that, lad, says Colin Ryan. Reports in the Tip media are saying Ford took off only as a precaution and good for Limerick. John Noonan says Cork and the Gaelic grounds would be tough too, especially if Clare beat them. Great championship in fairness. Detox 101. Bubbles is a fine analyst. He'll give it fair and square. Reminds me a lot of Babs with a bit of swagger. Fair play to him.
Can I just say on Bubbles as well, like, you kind of just know that he wants to talk a little bit differently as well. You know that he wants to, you know there's a few F's and that potentially coming. If it's you say me, you and Bubbles sitting at a bar talking about hurling, he'd probably be talking a little bit differently. He's just holding back a small bit, but you know that he called a spade, in fairness to him. On Ford as well, and it seems to be the same case with Cian Lynch, is that, and this wouldn't have been the case before, but I think lads have been told now, listen, if you have a knock, you need to put your hand up straight away and come off. Because you've probably had knocks, and I've had calves and hamstrings where you're in a little bit of bother, and you could play another 10 minutes and you could, that would be fine, and you get through that 10 minutes, but you're literally taking another 2 or 3 weeks out of your recovery. So I think Cian Lynch put his hand up. Kylie said that he'd be back within a week or 10 days. And I think Ford, if you're nipped at all or you're getting in anyway tight, it's the next run like that will do you. It's the next run that will add a couple of weeks to your injury, and he just can't afford it. So hopefully in Jason Ford's case, he just put his hand up and said, I need to come off now, but hopefully I won't be too bad.
Yeah, but managers would have said to myself and yourself, lad, stay on. We don't really mind if you
hurt. Stay on, and if you're out the next day, we'll be okay.
Yeah. Robbie O'Flynn, I mean, obviously he took, I think it was 3,000 steps on the way into that. But like, to be honest, like, I was just like, naive from Tip. Why are you trying to bury him with his shoulder? Just try and bottle him up, keep the hurley there, so once he eventually throws it up, and I know he's always getting away from players because he's so fast, but I was like, Tipperary giving the sideline away inside their own 45 and then allowing him to run through without trying to bottle him up. I just thought that was the real problem there, rather. And like, the fact that he had to go off then injured.
Yeah.
Like, what a blow this is. If he doesn't play again this year, let's say it's a bad one, because I think he left the stadium in crutches. And also, if Cork don't get out of the championship, that'll be him done for the year. Out of the Munster championship, that's him done for the year.
Yeah, he picked up his injury the first night of the league, didn't he, against Limerick? Am I right in saying that was the first night of the league? He came on the last day, obviously scored 2 points. His last contribution was that goal, albeit with a lot of steps taken. He's a real, I think he's a perfect mix of a Cork forward at the moment. He has the pace. He has the bit of physicality. He's well able to score, and he's robust as well. As we've seen the last couple of years, they need him. And it's funny, like they were able to survive maybe without him the other night, as Tip were able to survive with Jason Ford. But like with Waterford against Clare, you might survive without a lad in that game, but the knock-on consequences in the next game, if somebody else goes down, and the game after that, if somebody else goes down, you're going really, really deep into your reserves. Hopefully it's not too bad, but they're going to be under pressure, and he's going to be under pressure to feature, particularly if they don't get out of Munster.
Yeah. By the way, Barry Heffernan played for Nina last weekend, so I wonder how soon, or will it be a little bit more before he comes into the reckoning? Because he's a player that I've waxed lyrical. I haven't used that for a while, have I?
No.
But waxed lyrical about over the years, and I'm sure Liam Cahill would love to have him back involved. But good to see him back for Nina last weekend. Alan Tynan, we haven't really kind of focused on him too much, but has any other player ever readjusted to hurling quite like he has after taking a significant period of time away? Now, I'm sure he was poking around here and there, whatever, but obviously he would have put it all in with Munster Rugby in the academy there for a number of years. And it's taken a while to get back to to this stage, and maybe he could have been put back in a little bit sooner just to see how he goes. And of course, he would have had a few injuries as well. But my God, has any player ever come back in hurling quite like this after going away to another sport and performed like that in a big Munster Championship game?
Off the top of my head, no. And just to talk about Tynan's performance, I think he ended up with 4 points. He has all the energy, all the enthusiasm, all the work rate, some great tackling. How did he not get free as well at one stage in the second half? It was bonkers. There's been a couple of weird ones like that.
There was one in the first half when he was tripped by Tommy O'Connell.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? He was about 30 yards out.
Yeah, I'm feeling there might be one in the second half as well. But there's a couple. Cork got away. Kieran Joyce got away with a trip against Waterford as well. I don't know if it's something where the ref is kind of blindsided and didn't see it or whatever. Desi Hutchinson. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was Jack Prendergast going through.
No, sorry. Yeah. The Desi Hutchinson comment here, Red Lad, a player that readjusted back to hurling. Yeah, it's basically a 2-man list at the moment. Desi Hutchinson and Alan Tynan.
And I think for both of them, it probably happened at the perfect age. If you were 26 or 27, I don't know if you're just... Hurling is just such a, I always found with hurling, the biggest thing when you're out of it for a while is, and you see lads coming back, or maybe they haven't played, maybe lads have played even bits of rugby or soccer. It's when the ball is in around your feet, and it's actually been able to move quickly and been able to get the ball into your hand quickly. Those two lads have adapted really, really well. You'd have to say Desi got an All-Star nomination his first inter-county year. Tynan has been one of Tipperary's best players this year. He was brilliant against Limerick that day in the league semi-final. He was outstanding the other night. Outstanding performance again the other night. And he just offers... he offers several different little packages to the mix, doesn't he? He has the hurling, he has the class to put the ball over the bar. He has an insane kind of work rate, and I'd say his tackling stats are absolutely off the charts as well. He was just phenomenal the other night.
Yeah, like it's the straight line running, and maybe this is something that that you learn in rugby to some degree, because it is kind of like you do want to kind of take a good line or whatever. But the fact that he's able to keep the head up while he's soloing and generally try and feed somebody. And I thought at times lads could have made better runs for him, but maybe he's so dynamic, lads struggle to actually keep up with him. There was that stage he scored a point when he did a little sidestep inside a player.
Oh, yeah.
And blasted it over. Like, really, really good performance. And I just love how combative he is. He looks like he'd nearly have a fight with himself out there. He's getting so stuck into it. So, like, where can he go in another year or two? That's the big thing here. I mean, Tipperary have changed his team an awful lot in a short space of time. But I was pretty happy with the selection the other day, because in the middle area you had Conor Stackleb, who I rate really highly. Obviously, Dan McCormick, you won't have to get me to
the best man in the game to win a free.
Best man in the game to win a free. But like, there's a lot of lads that are like that. I mean, across the games last weekend, this weekend, there are lads going into contact looking for frees at all times. And I just think that like referees are just going to stop giving them. Cian Kenny doesn't get frees anymore because every time he goes into contact, the arms are up before he even does that, and the two arms go up in the air. And like, I think players are going to get fewer and fewer frees. I feel like referee, like actually, we'll come to it in a little while, but I thought Dublin were very hard done by with a couple of decisions from the referee. Not saying the referee's a bad referee, Thomas Gleeson's good, but Thomas Walsh, I should say. But there was definitely felt a little bit of an onus to not giving frees. But anyway, is there anything else we haven't touched on with the Tipperary Cork game before we move on?
No, I think it's nearly all been said. Wasn't it just from start to finish? I was just shouting at the telly, like watching it a lot of the time. You're just like when Cork banged in a couple of goals at the end, you're just thinking, because so many times I thought, Tipperary have this now, or they're in control of this. They're going to see it out. They're 4 or 5 up. I thought Jake Morris as well was very good for Tip too, as in a consistent performance. I think he's delivering a lot more on a consistent basis maybe than he had before. But yeah, no, just a belter of a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we look forward to the match next weekend as well. Liam Cahill said an exciting game, again with a lot of skill in it, but also a lot of errors, I suppose, and that contributed to such drama. Very proud of how the Tipperary responded to every sucker blow that came at them. Cork were exceptional as well. They never went away all day. We kicked on at certain stages, and you could say we were nearly there, but really when you're playing Cork, you're never there. It's true, the scoring power is there with Cork. It's just, I suppose, continuing to back that up now and shut up lads like you who have questioned them so much over the years. I've always said to have the players.
Having the players has never been the problem. It's funny though, they still face a bit of an uphill climb to get out of Munster. It's not going to be simple. Like, here's one for you: if you're to predict the top 5 in Munster, like what points are going to get out here? What are you going to need to get out? Like, a lot of teams are going to beat each other here potentially as well, and have already. Like, you would have imagined to be someone on 4 after 2 games. There's nobody on 4, 2 on 3. One team on 0 still have a great chance of getting out to win their last 2 games.
Yeah, and like for Waterford, the disappointment I'd say is that scoring difference, which could, like, we don't know what's going to catch a team out here, but some team is possibly going to go out on the head-to-head or on scoring difference, and they're going to be very, very upset at how they performed at a certain stage of one game here. Yeah, I mean, Tipperary should be on 4 points, but hey, that's the way life is at this moment in time. I think Clare arguably could be on 4 points as well, because I mean, I felt that the flow of the game was that Clare were on top against Tipperary for an awful lot of it, and the opportunity for them to win that game was there.
Anyway, quick point, Shane. So Waterford are on -11, right? Last year, Cork were on -13 after 2 games and still got out of Munster. So it is doable.
Yeah. Liam Linehan says Noel McGrath is pure class. What are the Waterford heads at is the questions, or where are they at, says Patrick Coleman. All 5 teams can finish on 4. Limerick and Clare to be on 6 on top, then Tip with 5. Yeah, so look, a lot of comments coming in. People are obviously very, very excited about how the championship is going. Keep the comments coming in. We love getting them.
Just lastly, Shane, from a Waterford point of view, like, would it be some difference if you trained at 2 o'clock on Saturday as opposed to training at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock Sunday morning? Imagine bouncing to train on Sunday morning, whereas probably on Saturday evening you're kind of thinking, there's probably a fair chance we could be out of the championship. It's completely different now.
Yeah, and again, like, there's so many football games coming up. Like, why doesn't the championship just merge the 2 tables together? Because we want to see all 5 of these Munster teams playing against Kilkenny. We want to see all 5 of them playing against Galway, and so on and so forth. It's just such a missed opportunity. What other competition? Like, imagine if the Premier League decided, no, we're not going to have Man City playing against Liverpool this year at all.
The thing about that, Shane, is the Munster Championship still means so much. Are you saying that the Munster Championship is not played then?
No. I'm saying you play the Munster Championship, you play the Leinster Championship, you've got your tables and your finals, then merge the tables together, and you've got 10 or 11 teams, and then the top 2 go to the All-Ireland semi-finals with home advantage maybe, or something like that, probably Croke Park. Then 3 to 6, they play in All-Ireland quarterfinals, and the rest are in a relegation battle as well. So throughout the season, you've got something at play. Maybe the 7th place team will say is just safe and in no man's land, and the rest of them beneath that play in relegation if there's 11 teams, something like that. But what a waste to go. Like, when did we last see Tipperary and Kilkenny in Championship? 2019. What other product would not have 2 of the biggest rivals play each other 3 seasons in a row? It's insane.
Can I ask you a question just on that 2019 final as well? Do you think Richie Hogan feels hard done by based on some of the stuff that's been let go in games and a lot of the red cards that haven't been? Just a genuine question, like, because like there's been some absolutely horrific tackles that have gone in with just yellow cards, and it's almost like Yeah, I just think it's a bit mad. That was a big statement at the time, and listen, it was a red card. But when you look at some of the things that haven't been called since, it's kind of head scratching, really.
But I think his was so clear for the referee as well. It wasn't like there was like in the middle of a Shemazel or like Seamus Flanagan's one, where there's an awful lot going on, and it's like probably most of us missed it initially, and it was only in the replay we saw it. Whereas I think that one was so obvious that the referee couldn't miss it. But yeah, I'm sure he can feel a small bit of grief, but it was a red card all day.